Eric here with Team Eccentric, and I'm bringing you guys a new duel commentary video. This time I'm on the right playing my Spellbook Invoked, and my buddy Joe is on the left playing his Dark Magician. Both decks are similar in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways they're also very different. For example, my deck is reactive in a way where I just try and establish board presence and then whittle down your resources while you play them and just kind of exhaust your resources, whereas his deck is more minimalistic in that it is more reactive on your turn, so it's as if he's playing during his opponent's turn. Whereas I just kind of establish this monster that you have to exhaust resources to get over. So they're both very reactive decks in a lot of ways. But so I go first, and I activate Terraforming to search. And here I attempt to search for my Magical Meltdown, which is probably one of my favorite field spells, both in terms of artwork and in terms of just the way it functions in the deck. So I activate Magical Meltdown, and I attempt to search Alistair, which is basically one of the hinges on which this deck functions. So I normal summon Alistair and attempt its effects, searching its own fusion spell. The thing about the Invoked engine is it's really strong, and there's the Invocation. But the Invoked engine is just really strong in that it just allows you to play with very minimal resources. So I activate the Spellbook spell card to search Spellbook of Knowledge. And then Knowledge tributes the Alistair. And then I get to draw 2. And that's the thing about this deck, is it plays off of just the most minimal amount of resources while making the most optimal amount of board presence. And the thing about the deck is it's just really easy to play with, really easy to function. So I activate Invocation, I send Glass Spell to the graveyard, banish Alistair from grave, and I special summon Raijin, figure I can put some kind of disruption on board. Then I activate Invocation, I shuffle back into the deck, and then I get to add Alistair back to my hand. This deck is just really cool in the way it functions. It just establishes one monster, then you play a bunch of disruptive spells and traps, and you can establish really good board presence just off of that. So now it's Joe's turn. He sets 1, sets 2, and then he discards for Apprentice Illusion Magician, and then attempts effective search. I activate Strike, so I'm at 65. And he just has 2 back rows set at this point. And then he attempts Apprentice Illusion Magician again, which I don't, offer any response to. So he gets to search for the Dark Magician, which I allow. I figure he doesn't have Dark Magical Circle on the board, which is the card I feel I really need to worry about, because that's the spot removal the Dark Magician has. The entire deck hinges upon that card being on the field, really, if you're going to be removing cards. So I figure, at this point, my plays are relatively safe. So I activate Raijin and flip his Apprentice Illusion Magician face down, and then he passes turn and it goes to me. So now I draw my card, and I normal summon my Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, which allows me to search for my Spellbook of search my Spellbook of Knowledge, attempting to get more draw power. So I activate Knowledge, and I tribute my Spellbook Magician of Prophecy to draw 2. Knowledge is just such a good engine in this, or Spellbooks are just such a good engine in this deck. So I set 2 more cards. I flip Raijin into attack position, and then I attempt Raijin to attack his face down Apprentice Illusion Magician. And after that, he activates Eternal Soul, which allows him to special summon his Dark Magician. And I forgot that Dark Magician is unaffected by card effects while he has Eternal Soul on the board, but pass turn to him. So he attempts to attack. I again forget that Dark Magician is not affected, but that's okay. So I attempt Alistair to increase my Raijin by 1,000. So my Raijin goes up to 32, dealing 700 points of damage to his Dark Magician. So that's definitely something there. Alistair is just such a good card. The Invoked engine, in my opinion, is just amazing. I feel like it's one of the most fair engines in the game, even though it's still pretty good. So he passes turn to me, and then he attempts Eternal Soul on my standby phase to bring back his Dark Magician, putting something on the board so that he can defend his life points. And all 4 of those back rows there are like chalices and things like that. So I activate Terraforming to get another Magical Meltdown. I can attempt to get another Alistair. So I get the other Alistair, and there it is. And it just allows me to put as much damage on the board as well as to just establish dominance over the board and just basically control everything that happens in the game. Basically, I'm in the driver's seat of the game. He may have Dark Magician and things like that on the board that's unaffected, but I don't care if your cards are unaffected if I have all of the disruption that I need in order to make your plays not function. So I attempt to attack and I activate Alistair, and he takes another 700 there. I love the way this engine works. It's just amazing, and the fact that it allows you to still play a control deck in a sense. At least in essence, a control deck nowadays is really cool. So he activates another Eternal Soul, and he attempts. I don't understand why he activated the second one, but then again, I mean, he may just be trying to keep it on board. So, oh, that's right, so that he can special summon his Magician of Dark Illusion, and then I believe that allows him to search for. Oh, the Eternal Soul allows him to search for a dark magic attack. He activates it, and I activate Solemn Judgment. I got to keep my back row on the board because that's part of the way my deck functions is disruption, and sometimes my monsters aren't enough, so I need as much back row as I can get onto the board. And that being said, I Solemn Judgment his dark magic attack because I need to keep that back row up there. It's very imperative to the way my deck functions. He passes turn, and then he uses the Eternal Soul to special summon his Dark Magician. I switch Raijin into defense position. I set another card, and then I believe I pass turn to him. So he activates Wonder Wand on his. He sets a card and then activates Wonder Wand, and then he attempts to attack my Raijin, which is fine. And then he attacks with his beefed up Illusion of Dark the Dark Illusion Magician. So then I special summon my Wind Witch. He activates Breakthrough skill, and then I chain, and I activate Forbidden Dress so that can't be targeted, which really good tech in this deck is Forbidden Dress, because if my opponent attempts to target or disrupt my plays by targeting a card, I have Forbidden Dress so that I can mitigate that. So I special summon the other Wind Witch from the deck, which allows me to search for the Snow Belt. And we all know what's coming, the Indestructible Crystal Wing. So I special summon, and then I synchro for 7. And there's the Wind Witch synchro, and then he takes 800 points of effect damage. And then after that, I synchro once more. And basically, this engine just allows this deck to basically reestablish, given he outs my monster. So I summon the Crystal Wing, and it just allows me to put this big beefy monster that negates things and just dominates during the battle phase as well on the board. And that's honestly why I love the way this deck, as well as the Wind Witch engine in and of itself, functions. It's just so quick to reestablish board presence. So I attempt to attack with the Crystal Wing, and he takes 3k because Crystal Wing basically gains attack points equal to the level 5 or higher monsters attack points that it battles. So if I attack something with Crystal Wing and it's level 5 or higher, he basically gains his attack points, dealing exactly 3,000 points of damage. Now it's his turn, so he draws. And like I said, Dark Magicians are very minimalistic, but given that, they don't have, if you do manage to clear out their cards, there's not so much they can do. The deck is hinged around you keeping your back row onto the board and keeping the imperative cards like Dark Magical Circle or Eternal Soul on field, so that you can keep cycling through your Dark Magicians, whether they're in your hand, your field, your deck, whatever. You can keep cycling through them and keep using your Dark Magical circle for spot removal. And then after that, I believe he passed him. He wanted to attack, but he forgot Crystal Wing's effect. Yeah, I'm not sure why he would have done anything, but he switched to defense position. He passes. So I normal summon Alistair and I attempt its effect. Searching my invocation. I love the invoked engine. It's so good. Plus, it allows it recycles itself, which is just great. So I activate third knowledge, draw 2 cards, and just so many resources in my hand. I activate secrets, and I search the Blue Boy or Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Sets, and then I use Crystal Wing, and I attempt to attack his Dark Magician. And then he uses Eternal Soul to bring it back, and then he special summons his Dark Illusion Magician again, and then he summons out his Rod, and he attempts its effect. I pass turn, so he normal summon Rod, he attempts effect, and I negate with Crystal Wing. I already knew what he was trying to go for there, that Dark Magical Circle. That's one of the cards that can actually out my Crystal Wing because it banishes it, it doesn't destroy it, and Crystal Wing is indestructible, not untargetable at this point. But, so he overlays, and he goes into his rank 7, and I go Chalice because I know that he can special summon something from his deck and then go off and do all kinds of other plays. And if he special summons a normal spellcaster level 7 monster, I believe his Xyz allows him to target my Crystal Wing to banish it. And I can't have that. I cannot allow that to happen. So I have to make sure that Crystal Wing stays on the board because I don't really have too many resources going for me right now other than my back row. And Crystal Wing is basically the one monster that I'm kind of banking on at this point. So he has the rank 7, but that's about all he has on the board other than Eternal Soul. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because Eternal Soul is literally a once per turn monster reborn. It just allows you to keep bringing back your Dark Magicians. So he is thinking out plays, and he attempts to activate effect. Even though I chaliced, he can still detach for the cost. And then he attempts Eternal Soul to bring back the Dark Magician. And that's one of the things about this game is like the technical play, such as paying cost, things like that. You can still pay cost if an effect is negated, and that's something that he learned against my Mermails. Is I can still, if you effect Veiler a Neptibus, I can still send the Dragoons for the cost. So now he passes the turn to me, and basically, I have to consider how to get around that rank 7, because if I attack into something, especially against the Dark Magician, his rank 7 can actually target my Crystal Wing to banish, and that's during either player's turn, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. So, I have a lot of back row here, so I can obviously use one of those. So I Forbidden Chalice the rank 7, just thinking, all right, well, I'll just keep it so its effects are negated for the turn, so that if I do battle over it, there's nothing he can do about it. He can't target my Crystal Wing to banish. So I attempted to attack the Dark Magician, and then that's game, I believe. Yep, that is game 1. So, the thing about that game is, if the moment my deck gets rolling, it's kind of like a snowball effect where, it takes a second to really get rolling, but once it gets going, the deck just allows itself to recycle and put cards back and just establish as much board presence as possible with one monster, and then set up a bunch of back row as well. And obviously, the deck doesn't do a lot of combos. It's not a combo-based deck. It's a control strategy that just allows me to basically establish, board presence and negate everything. So here, I believe he goes first. So he sets 1. He ditches for Apprentice Illusion Magician, and he gets to search the Dark Magician. But yeah, Apprentice Illusion Magician in and of itself is really good, just because it can activate from the hand or the field, which I actually did I completely forgot about that it could activate from the hand. It's very, very good. Just increasing a dark spellcaster monster's attack points by 2,000. But he activates Wonder Wand and attempts to get some draw power. He doesn't have the Spellbook engine, so he just plays the Wonder Wands, and then he activates Dark Magical Circle, which allows him to reveal the top 3 to himself, and then pick one that has Dark Magician in the name, and then put the other 2 back in any order. And not only that, but Dark Magical Circle acts as spot removal for the deck, which is inherently good, just because of the fact that it just allows you to disrupt your opponent's turns. So here I activate Terraforming, and I search the Magical Meltdown. I activate the Magical Meltdown and I attempt effect to search. So search the Alistair as per the usual. That's one of the core plays of the deck. The deck is linear, I will say that. That's one thing. So I attempt Alistair. Alright, normal summon Alistair, attempt effect to search, and then after that he special summons using Eternal Soul, and then he triggers his Dark Magical Circle, and then I activate Dress from my hand to target Alistair so that it can't be targeted by his Dark Magical Circle. Basically, it can't be targeted by anything for the rest of the turn, which is really strong. That's why I play the Forbidden Dresses, because the really decent tech cards, it just allows you to keep your monsters from being targeted given you're playing against a deck that does a lot of targeting, i.e. Burning Abyss, or even Dark Magicians with Dark Magical Circle, or anything like that. Forbidden Dress is just such a good tech card in my opinion. So I set 2. After that I pass turn, I believe. I activate, or he sets a card and then he activates Dark Magic Circle, or Dark Magic Attack, clearing out my board, and I activate Scapegoat to create a bunch of tokens. He overlays, and he goes into his rank 7. But I believe the rank 7 Dark Magician monster, I believe it's like Ebon High or Ebon Illusion, one of those 2. Essentially what it does is it allows him to detach special summon a normal level 7 spellcaster from the deck, I believe, and then when a normal spellcaster battles, I believe he's allowed to banish a card on the field. So it just allows him to remove cards during the battle phase and clear things out. So he uses Eternal Soul to special summon Dark Magician, and then he targets my Alistair to banish it. And then he clears out my tokens, which would have been used for a Borlo Dragon, because Scapegoat is basically a free link 4. But he clears out my tokens. I have nothing left on the board, so he passes turn to me. There's really not much I can do with that, that I have nothing on the board, because the thing about my deck is it has to have that board presence already established in order to really make strong pushes and plays and things like that in order for me to really push. So I scoop it up, we go to game 3. Really not much I could have done there. I mean, he would have just Eternal Souled his Dark Magician and banished my other Alistair and went off that way, and I wouldn't have been able to really do much. So we go to game 3. I opt to decide to go first again. My deck, I feel, likes to go first. Obviously, it's a control deck, so control decks always go first. You set up, you set up control and dominance over the game, and you just kind of hold on to the steering wheel and just basically not allow your opponent to play. So we go first, or I go first here, which isn't really good on his end because Dark Magician, being a back row based deck, doesn't function well going second. So I normal summon Alistair and I search the Invocation. And basically, my entire idea of this game is to just keep his Dark Magical Circle off the board. So I use Knowledge and draw 2. And then I activate the Invocation and I send Effect Veiler and banish the Alistair. And there's the Mechaba. Mechaba is just such a strong card in this matchup because I can banish his Dark Magical Circles so he can't somehow get them back or anything like that. So I activate the Invocation from Grave, shuffle it back into the deck, and then I get to add the Alistair back to my hand. I think about setting another card. So I set another card, and then there I pass it to him. So he sets a card. I know we're not playing combo deck, so I know this game is probably a little more boring than usual, but I just like to see a game with a little bit more back and forth action, which is basically why I wanted to put this game up, is because, you know, back and forth action, in my opinion, in a game really shows, you know, a grind game really shows the skillfulness of a player and how they know how to attack certain cards and use technical play to their advantage. So he activates Dark Magical Circle, and I believe I negate it. I do negate it, and then I banish it. Like I said, I want to keep his Dark Magical Circles off the board because that's his spot removal, and if he can't do that, Dark Magicians really don't have much to do. So he normal summons the Rod, and he activates. He has Dark Magical Circle again. And the thing is that I believe he attempts to place it back on field. I don't know the ruling behind this, but I think he can't activate it again, or he can't activate it to search its effect to reveal the top 3 again. I'm not sure, because I believe it is a hard once per turn, but I'm not really sure how that ruling works if it's negated. I read the card just to make sure, and it said it's a hard once per turn, so I'm assuming that if he places it on field, he can't activate its searching ability again or anything like that, because he already attempted it, and I negated it. So, but he places it on the field, and then he activates Wonder Wand and tributes his Rod, which allows him to get another draw 2. After that, he ditches the Dark Magician for his Apprentice Illusion Magician. So after that, he goes to his end phase, and I activate Scapegoat, trying to get big board on you know, just trying to establish the biggest board I can here. So after that, I link. I go into Alistair, the Invoker of Madness. I link 1. Go into Link Spider, link another. Go into Link Spider, and then here, this allows me to go into Borreload Dragon, which is very strong here, and he activates the Dark Renewal trap card, which allows him to target a monster I summon and send it to the grave so that he can special summon a Dark Spellcaster. And then I activate Forbidden Dress to prevent my Borreload from being targeted, because Borreload, the thing about it is, it can be targeted by spells and traps. It cannot be targeted by monster effects. So you know, the Dark Renewal trap card would have really outed my Borreload had I not had the Forbidden Dress, but Forbidden Dress just, again, comes through and comes in clutch, just allows me to prevent my card from being targeted. So then here I normal summon Alistair, and I attempt to effect a search. Oh, and he also was able to special summon his Dark Illusion Magician. I had the Invocation, and then you can see that, like, the way my deck functions, it almost slowly grinds your opponent's resources and exhausts them, which, in my opinion, is just great. I love the way that this deck functions. It's just amazing. I link Summon again, and I go into Proxy Dragon, figuring, you know, just getting, you know, as much monster presence onto the board, and then I activate Invocation. I banish Effect Failure and Alistair. I go into Mikaba, and I activate the Invocation. I shuffle back the spell card, and then I get to add the banished Alistair back to my hand. You can see I have a Borreload Dragon, a Mechaba with a negate, and a Proxy Dragon on board, which, in my opinion, is a pretty well-established field in a deck like this. So I believe I go to Battle Phase here, and I attempt Borreload. Or do I? Oh yeah, so I attempt to attack with Borreload over the Dark Illusion Magician, and I use its effect to steal and put it in a zone that I control. And then I reduce his Dark Illusion Magician's attack and defense by 500. And then I attempt Mechaba to attack over the Dark Illusion Magician. And then I go in for 14 direct with Proxy Dragon. And then I believe 2,000 with his Apprentice Illusion Magician. Basically, now, there's really not much he can do here with, I believe, only one card in hand. He may have one or two, but he's going to draw one. So he draws one after I pass, and then he activates Raigeki, and I activate Mechaba. I got to keep that on. Yeah, I have to make sure that that was a thing. So then after that, he scoops it up. So that's game 3. So Spellbook Invoked versus Dark Magician. This was a very, very interesting matchup, and like I said, I like matchups that have a little bit of back and forth. Sometimes watching a combo deck just go off and ruin somebody's day is kind of fun, kind of cool. You get to see how a combo deck would function. But I really liked that this game had a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of actual player interaction. It was really an interesting game to play because, like I said, Forbidden Dress and Forbidden Chalice and things like that, those cards are just such inherent staples in terms of just their functionality and how technical and how versatile they are. Like, you can apply them in a lot of different situations, and that's the real reason why I like the way this deck functions. And I appreciate all the views you guys give us, as always. Rate, comment, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. I will attempt to get a deck profile of my Spellbook Invoked as well as his Dark Magician deck, just so you guys can kind of see our thought processes behind the strategies. We have a lot of content that I have to edit and get up, so just be prepared. Keep your guys' eyes open. I have a bunch of content just kind of just sitting in my file folder next to my skate footage. I have a lot of editing to do, but regardless, really appreciate all the views you guys give us. Eric here, Team Eccentric, and I'm signing out. Rate and subscribe, leave your comments and ideas in the comment section below, and don't hesitate to give us respectful suggestions on content you want to see. Eric on behalf of the team saying take care, and Team Eccentric out.